Okay, I'm going to welcome you all to our podcast today. I'm sitting with Henry Pulliam. I've had a couple of interviews with Henry here, and this is one today that I'd like to focus on a piece of his life that I think might be of interest to all of you that are listening, where he spent a number of years as a Metro Transit driver, one of the buses in the Metro of the Twin Cities here in Minnesota. And so, Henry, I want to welcome you to
Thank
our
you.
little conversation. We've had a little time to think about it with the preparations that you had to make in terms of training and all of that. But I think for this, I'm going to have us talk more about after you got into the whole business of being a bus driver and what kind of an experience that was. Was it something? Well, you can describe for us what your feelings were about being a bus driver.
Well, to start off, I can tell you it was an experience I never had before. It was fascinating. The training was fascinating. They really teach you the knowledge on how to drive that bus, how to get that bus down the street. Keep in mind, you have a lot of responsibilities. Um, and there are folks who maybe could not handle a 40-foot bus, particularly when you got to get it around the traffic, get it around the corner, pull away from a curb, pull into a curb, watch everything that's going on around you, um, and be concerned with your passengers. Now, you're multitasking like crazy.
That's a lot of stuff to keep on your plate, isn't it?
A lot of
And
stuff.
and I think a lot of kids are familiar with school buses and so forth, but this is another level, isn't it,
Absolutely.
of what we would call public transportation. So, with you might want to explain a little bit about the transition. I had a conversation with you about when things changed from where you had to put money in a little slot that was there, and then when technology got so you could have a little card maybe and just poop, and then you were it that automatic part of our efficiency world we've got in a lot of places. So how did that affect your sense of being a bus driver and interacting with those folks that came into your bus?
Well, it was a big change. And keep in mind that boarding people on your bus, they have a certain way, everybody has a certain way of getting on your bus, believe it or not. Some folks are already prepared to get on the bus. They already got the fare all ready to go, and they just drop it in the fare box and take their seat. But they got many more folks aboard the bus that are not prepared to pay for their fare at that time before the technology came up, that they would have to search for their money and they didn't have enough of it, and they were short fared, and they had every excuse in the world why they didn't have their fare. And it's up to you to make a decision whether you're going to allow that person or persons board your bus. I've heard everything in the world as to why they don't have the money that they need to have to board the bus.
Uh-huh.
But they taught us you're not a police officer, you're not a fair police officer. Folks that want to board your bus, you let them board the bus. There's a certain way you key in on the fare box. I tried to not be confrontational. I didn't want to be confrontational. I felt that you know, there are times where folks may not have the full fare. Maybe they are on their way to work, or maybe they have an appointment to make and they forgot money at home, or they dropped it somewhere, or they just didn't have it. It wasn't my job to make um, their life any more harder than what it is, and I would let them board, and I knew how to. It taught me how to key in the system for short fares and things like that, and I
Well,
understand that, and,
yep.
and and maybe I wouldn't have seen that same person again tomorrow or the next week. That may have been a one-time deal.
So that's one
So
of the points of being a driver was that you had to deal with making decisions about
Absolutely.
how to handle some of these things that are not according to what was
Yeah.
required in some way.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That's true. You
yeah,
know, and so interacting with the public, you have to. When at that time before Go To came in, um, and it was interesting, and
yeah,
I always felt that the majority of the public were honest anyway, and if they didn't have it, and for some reason they
yeah.
didn't have their full fare. Okay, saying that, my my thought was that I'm being hired to move that bus down the street, and for every wasted minute or 2 minutes, and those add up, and I'm going to be late at the checkpoints all the way down that route.
Yeah.
And there are folks that are hired to pay attention to where are you at a certain point in time, and that's what you're selling. So you're selling to move that bus, pick up that passenger, get them down the street in a safe manner to their destination.
Somebody's out there waiting at a bus stop looking for you at a certain
It
time.
may be at a bus stop or somewhere down that route
Yep,
to
yep.
see how your time is running. And not only that, the people that work at transit control, they're monitoring your bus also
Uh-huh.
to see if you're running behind, or they call running slow, running hot, and what's going on out there.
Sure.
They have those folks.
Yep.
You may not see them, but they're there.
They're there, and then the technology upgraded about how to get money, and so there's this little card or whatever you want to call it,
So
go to.
it's a plastic card that you purchase,
Yep.
or your employer will purchase a bunch of them. They give them to you at a discount of some sort, or you can go to a Metro Transit store and purchase them. You pay your money there and purchase the card. You get so many rides off that card. And when your bus comes and you step onto the bus, and right inside the door to the right, there's something called a go-to apparatus, and you touch it, and when the green light comes on, you go take your seat. There is no money transferred from you to the fare box.
So that took away that hassle that you would have otherwise had most of the time,
Absolutely,
or at least it minimized.
absolutely. And some people try to take advantage of it, and they just walk right by. They just keep walking, They
No card touching
no
anything.
card touching, or they have the wrong kind of card. I have folks who had credit cards. No, they don't work off of credit cards. They have a go-to card,
Sure,
but they have
sure.
a library card, school ID card, all kinds of other kind of cards, but not a
So,
go-to card.
so there's some folks that try to pull off a little,
Absolutely.
shady
Or
approach. Or,
if you got 6 people waiting for the bus at any bus stop, and you know that the go-to system is there as soon as the door opens, and you got these folks who are interacting with this go-to system. I've had people from the back of that line that's been waiting for the bus that get on the bus, and go right around everybody and take a seat because
because
they think the driver's distracted.
and then, so there's people that have little cut corners, if you will.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
them do it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it did take away something from the driver interacting with the public, the goings and comings. I like, me personally, the way I drove. Every driver has a little niche in the world of what they do when they're
Sure.
driving. My little thing was, I like to know who's getting on my bus, because if there was an issue, and I'm looking at that mirror that's facing the back, and I already probably have some idea of who's getting on the bus. It gives me that one step up from not knowing what's going on and who's on that bus.
Sure.
It does help.
Yeah. So the point being, it's public transportation, but for you, there are people that you want to know, and you probably see more regularly in certain routine settings, right?
Right.
That makes it more of a personal feeling about it,
Yes.
rather than this anonymous
Absolutely.
thing that we sometimes think.
Absolutely.
So when you think about the kind of people that you've had, maybe you could tell us a story or two about maybe a challenge or a surprising experience that you might have had that might be of interest. I don't know
Well,
what you want to share there.
I had a fellow who, no issues with him getting on the bus,
Right.
but as we went down the line and he was getting ready to get off the bus, he would come and tap me on my shoulder. And right when I was getting ready to pull into the bus stop, and he said, "Driver," he said, "how come you didn't control your bus?" And I said, what are you referring to? Explain, please. What do you mean? He said, "Well, your bus is too noisy." Too noisy? I said, "Sir, this is a public bus. Folks will talk. Some of them will talk louder than other people." I said, "Keep in mind, you had a bunch of school kids. School just let out on the route that we were on,
Uh huh.
and they get a little noisy back there. They're not interrupting or distracting me as an operator, but these are the kinds of things that take place on a public bus, sir." Um, I said, I'm sorry that you
Yeah.
feel the way you do, but I think that overall, you were able to get to your destination in a safe and timely manner. So, therefore, the only thing I can tell you that, you can, always have the liberty to call transit control if you like and explain it to them what they can and can't do. But
So the
this
kind of complaints
is,
was that people were too loud and noisy in
yeah,
the
he
bus,
said it's too
and he
loud and
thought that you
noisy.
should solve that problem.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
But my job is to drive the bus and get you to your destination and solve it. And I could not ascertain if as far as I'm concerned, um, you're the only person that I know of that mentioned to me that there was all this noise going on this bus.
Yeah.
But,
So
sir, it is what it is.
that's so people have intolerances of various
You
kinds.
do have
Or
folks like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So were there any people that had problems that kind of had to be dealt with that you had? I don't know if you had any medical emergencies that would come
Um,
up or any.
I had a couple get on the bus one night when I had one of those a late night route. There was a couple that got into a fist fight.
Uh,
They were married.
yeah.
They went direct to the back of the bus and duked it out.
Oh my goodness. This is one of those late night.
It's one of those late night altercations, you
Oh
know.
my goodness.
And they were really nice when they got on the bus, but by the time they got to the end of the line, they were fighting like the Dickens, man. I couldn't believe what I was saying. I look in the mirror and I see that back there, the guy hauled off and she hauled off and hit him in the nose. Blood went all over the place.
Oh no.
Then he was wrestling with her back on the back of the bus all the way to the back, and they were going at it. And I pulled over to a bus shelter, and I put the bus and secured the bus and got a hold of transit control and said, "Hey, there's a fight going on my bus," and they wanted to know who it was. I said, "I understand it's a husband and wife team, that man and woman that started this fight. They were really kind of loud when they got on the bus.
Uh-huh.
It escalated, got louder. By the time we got to the whatever stop they wanted to get off on, I pulled into that bus stop. And they were back there duking it out and hitting each other and going on and wrestling around. So what do you want me to do, transit control? We'll stay where you are. We'll send your supervisor out, and we'll send the transit police.
Uh-huh.
So that's what they did, and supervisor showed up first, and these folks got off the bus. They just disappeared out into the night. I don't know where they went.
So they kind of just they when you pulled over, they got off the bus. So,
Yeah, went out the back door.
out the back door. Yeah.
Out the back door. Just kept going. Disappeared.
So there you
Yeah,
were.
there was blood back there, and they had to. What they decided to do was put some kind of retaining tape or something that they where you have an incident, and they had to get me another bus because it turned into one of those hazard kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
things. And I only had to continue into downtown Minneapolis, and I was done for the night. Um,
Yeah. So that was
so
kind of a bad night when
yeah,
somebody's behavior turns into that kind of thing. That doesn't happen
yeah.
every day, right?
No, just
But
no.
but it can happen.
But it can. And, you know, at the beginning of the run, I was a happy camper, driving and saying
Yeah.
hello to everybody. For
Yeah.
the first 7.5 hours there were abouts, and that last 30 minutes to 40 minutes, all heck broke loose.
you you had to deal with that.
Wow.
But that just for educational purposes, that means as a driver, you can call in and get some help, and
Either you do
that's
covert or overt
yep,
call,
yeah,
silent alarm or whatever you think is necessary.
sure.
And
So there's part of that high responsibility you have as a
yeah,
driver and what you are
yeah,
doing.
I
Yeah,
don't know if what the outcome of all that was, but
but
that couple really was going at it.
yep,
And somebody who knew them also got off of that stop. They were just
I
somebody who
see.
knew them, and I don't know how well they knew them, but they were the ones that told me they were a husband and wife.
Okay.
You know?
So there was some community
Yeah,
knowledge about it that
yeah,
was on the bus besides your
yeah.
driving. Yeah.
One
Wow.
one of the bigger issues I have, believe it or not, is when adults get on the bus and they have small children, particularly
Yeah.
toddlers. They have a tendency not to supervise their kids,
Ah,
particularly if they have two or three kids to get on the bus, and they let these kids run up and down the aisle while the bus is in motion, and it
ah,
becomes an issue with safety. And I had a day where I was somewhere where in northeast Minneapolis, somewhere on a certain route, and I pulled into the bus stop. I noticed the lady that was boarding the bus, she had four kids.
uh-huh.
They get on the bus, and she pays her fare. They all get on, and they go to the back. We're back by the back door, and I'm pulling out of the curb, going away from the bus stop, continuing route. And I guess 5 minutes or so after I'm back in
Uh-huh.
down the street driving, all of a sudden these kids are just running up and down. They're not sitting in the seat. They're running up and down the aisle and
Wow.
chasing each other, and
Yep, yep, yep.
you know. So finally, I decided, well, wait a minute now. Somebody's going. It could be an issue here. What if I had to stop all of a sudden? You know?
Right, right. So that risk you could see and you're responsible.
Yes. So I pulled into the. As soon as I came up to a bus stop, I pulled into a bus stop, and I got on the intercom,
Uh-huh.
and I asked the lady who boarded the bus that would she please control her children,
Uh-huh.
supervise them.
Uh-huh.
'Cause I said you're what you're doing. You're putting them into a situation where it can become a big problem. If I had to stop this bus immediately,
Right.
them kids would come flying, man.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Very much. Yeah.
and
Injuries
it could be injured.
are very,
So
very
please,
risky.
please, would you please control your children,
Yeah.
supervise them until you decide whatever bus stop you need to get off. It's very important, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope you understand. All of a sudden, I hear this cheer from the
So,
passengers.
so the rest of them were looking for that kind of,
Yeah,
yes, I believe you.
yeah.
Because nobody else wanted to be the one to tell her to do that. Yeah.
No,
Did the
absolutely.
children finally settle down a little
She
bit?
did settle down, and matter of
Uh-huh.
fact, she got some help.
And then she got some help.
She got some help from a couple of ladies on the bus.
There again, that anonymity was broken when you mentioned this, and then they found that it was okay to help her.
Yes,
Otherwise, they wouldn't have known it. They felt
yes.
intimidated, and you don't want to run into.
Yeah, I know how difficult it was to control four toddlers, a little older than being toddler
Absolutely.
age.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, riding a
That's
public
right.
bus. You know,
That's right. Yeah.
and
Well, there you. So there you go. That's
know.
part of the story too. Well, there you. That and that's. Yeah, if you're in a car and the kids are
Right.
running around, that would not work out either, would
Right.
it? Yeah.
Uh,
We've all had that experience at
I
some
had I
part
had
of
one
life.
more situation where I'm driving during the winter months, and I'm coming down a street that had a hill on it, and I'm going up this hill, and I had so much weight on that bus that they hadn't yet put whatever they needed to put out on that street to keep the traction going and
So
all.
it's icy.
It was very icy. The
Uh-huh.
bus wasn't having some issues,
Sure. Yeah.
so I pulled over
Uh-huh.
and I asked. On the intercom. I needed some information as to anybody knows how I can get this bus up this doggone hill. Everybody thought, well, maybe it's just too many people on this bus, for it to get up this hill. The slipping and sliding going on, and so all the men decided to get off the bus.
Okay.
They did. Every one of them
Okay.
got off the bus. I had taken the bus out of park, put it in drive. The men were standing at the bus stop, and slowly I was creeping up the hill. When I got up to the top of this particular hill, which it wasn't a huge incline,
Uh-huh.
I was able to bring all these fellas back. I put the bus in park. I went out to the front door, and I waved, and they all come running. It was like a group of guys, man, all in step,
Yeah, yeah.
back onto the bus, and we continued en route. It was one of the funniest things I've ever saw.
Well, the men were the ones to know. They were the heavy ones,
Yeah.
apparently. Yeah.
Because I found out that in order for me to get another bus and get it in the right position and for them to bring me one out, because I have one of these older buses, they would have taken probably an hour or so with just waiting
Well, of course, and that's not
during
what
that time.
anybody wants. Yeah.
Everybody they were on their way to work.
Sure,
You know?
sure, yeah. Well, that's a great Minnesota story with the buses.
Yes.
Nice.
Can I tell one more?
Yeah, you can. Yes.
Okay. I'm coming down 35W one morning, going northbound to downtown Minneapolis. It was during rush hour. I noticed, looking out of my rearview mirrors, that there's some smoke coming out of the back where the engine compartment is. I'm about 40th and 35W,
Uh huh.
and suddenly I see all this smoke, and then suddenly I'm smelling some kind of weird smoke and stuff is coming up to the front of the bus. And as I continue down the freeway, the smoke was getting heavier and heavier. Well, I decided by the time I got to the 11th Street off ramp,
Uh huh.
right before you pull into downtown Minneapolis, I decided to get off because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know this was an emergency. I just want to get everybody off the bus.
Yeah.
So I get off from the off ramp, I pull off, I pull into a side street where they had other bus stops. I open up the front door, the back door, and tell everybody to get off the bus. Smoke was coming out of the bus at the back end like crazy.
Wow.
And I happened to pull next to a tall building that had outside air conditioning where they had all this nice smelling good air. They suck into the building. It just so happens that I had a bus parked right in front of that building, not beknownst to me, was pulling all this smoke
Into their building.
into the building. They thought
No.
the building was on fire. The fire truck showed up. And all these people, I heard all these alarms going off.
This was not one of your better days.
No, it was not one of my better days.
Oh
yeah.
my
And these folks
gosh.
come running out of there, and they saw, oh, it's that bus with all that smoke, and it got a certain smell to it. And they all come running out there, man, What happened was the dual tires braking system decided on its own to lock,
I see.
and it was heating up the dual system.
So those
That's what was going
brakes
on.
were smoking.
Smoking like crazy.
That would not be a good experience.
No.
No. That's,
Smoking like crazy.
that's,
So they had to call a tow truck and the whole 9 yards, and I'm out
Yes.
there waiting.
Wow.
But folks got downtown and they
Yeah,
went on about their
yeah.
business, you know. But to see all those folks come rushing off that bus, and all them people out of the building come rushing down and see what's going on.
Well,
All these people,
that's a
man.
bad way to kind of create community.
Wow.
Well,
Those were the days.
on that smoky ending, I
Those
think
were
we
the
better
days.
end this. This was
Yeah.
a good story
Yeah.
telling, and I think we all know. Be respectful of bus drivers
Be respectful. Absolutely.
because they are in responsible places to help people, and sometimes things really do
Absolutely.
get difficult.
And I enjoyed my whole tenure there when I was driving.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I did about 11 years, and I'll never. It's something I will never forget.
Never forget. Well, thank you. We may have more stories, but at this point,
Oh, yeah.
we'll let her go for today. And
Okay,
happy
sir.
birthday to you, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate
this is
that.
your 78th birthday.
Yes,
we're doing,
sir.
and we should recognize that.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you for listening, everybody. Have a good day.